What's up? How you doing today? Well, this is another day of ITTO Extreme. This is where we talk about ITTOs, chill out, relax, and try to think of the PMP exam as not a major showstopper for you. You see, too many people go about thinking the PMP exam has defeated them and floored them. It's just such a bad way of thinking. I mean, think about the PMP exam. What is it really? It's a man-made exam made by people who have too much time on their hands, and they start coming up with all kinds of crazy questions. Now, you know exactly what I mean if you've been there, done that on the exam. Maybe you failed it once or twice, maybe you've passed it. Well, you know, those questions are downright almost ridiculous, some of them. I mean, what are those questions really testing? What are they really testing you on? You know, back in the day, they used to say, if you know where to find it, there's no need of testing yourself on it. If you know where to get basic information about which output goes where and all that stuff, well, what's the point testing it? Now, I know to some degree it makes sense, but a lot of the exam is just full of trickery, and that's no good. It's full of trickery. And that's why it makes me so mad. I hate people failing it. And that's why I make these videos to help people. You see, on the PMP exam, what else could they possibly test you on other than the major part of the PMBOK? The major part of the PMBOK is from chapters 4 all the way to 13 in the 5th edition, but in the 4th edition from chapters 4 to 12. But you probably realize chapters 4 to 12 is made up of a little preamble of each process in each knowledge area, right? And then it's made up of what are the inputs for this process? What are the tools and techniques for this process? And lastly, what are the outputs from the process? So when you look at the PMBOK guide as a whole, it becomes very easy to understand. There's nothing else they could possibly ask you. It has to come from a tool, a technique, an input, or an output. Think about it. So they ask you questions such as you're working on a process that revolves around perfecting what you are creating on the project. You use inspection to carry out this process. Your organization has been hired to perform this endeavor. And they go on to ask you, which process are you in? The two answers typically would be something like verify scope, while in the 5th edition it's called validate scope, and perform quality control, you know. So they'll give you those options and say, which one are you in? And that's why you need to know the definitions of the processes, and you need to know what exactly you're doing, what your end game of each process is. If you can do that, it'll become easier for you to sniff out the wrong answers from the right answers. You know, for example, if someone says, you know, you're doing exactly what I just mentioned, you know, trying to perfect a deliverable, and they give you options such as verify scope, perform quality control, perform quality assurance, and plan quality, you need to be able to pick up the right one, because they're talking about you, the performing organization. Now, people who haven't read the PMBOK guide deep, they're going to think it could be verify scope, you see? And that's why at the end of the day, it boils down to knowing what inspection is used for. So if you don't know inspection is an ITTO and where that ITTO is used, you can't answer such questions. And there are tons of questions like that, even more difficult, you know, with the loftier wording and so on. And if you cannot decipher those little things, you're going to find it hard on the exam. You see? So it really all boils down to knowing your ITTOs cold. Now some people think cold means cramming. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean knowing the definitions, 1, and 2, knowing the application. How do you apply a tool and technique? For example, you're trying to find the percentage of defects and you're trying to trace them to a source. What should you use? Should you use the Ishikawa? Should you use a Pareto chart? Should you use a histogram? Should you use a control chart? You need to know what the definitions of each of those is. If you don't know the definition of Pareto, Pareto's law, Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, there's no way you'll get a question like that right. You probably choose Ishikawa. You get it wrong. So, you know, really consider knowing your ITTOs better. You know, you really need to spend time not memorizing, but really understanding. And that's key. So today I would like you to spend some time digging into the ITTOs for quality management. Know the tools and techniques. Know what the difference is between a control chart and a scatter diagram. Know what a scatter diagram tells you. Know what a control chart tells you. Know what exactly a run chart is and how it's related to a control chart. Stuff like that. Now when you get into perform quality assurance, you realize there's a fine line dividing QA and QC, because they refer to all of these quality planning and quality control tools, and any of those tools could be used invariably for quality assurance, because what you're doing in QA is you're checking the process, and to check the process sometimes you need tools and results that show you how your performance was. And you could take another look at your performance and say, wow, why did we perform this way? What went wrong? You see, so you do need to understand the interrelationships between the processes and also the ITTOs. It's so critical to succeed. So anyway, I hope this has helped you. If you're one of those people who thinks the PMP exam is, you know, the big exam who beats everyone up, well, think again. You can absolutely kill it. I'm telling you, you can stomp all over that exam. You just need to get your mindset aligned in the right direction. Focus, be precise, be deliberate. Don't be ad hoc about your PMP studying. If you're deliberate, you'll do well. But if you're ad hoc and jumping about the place, and by the way, using too many tools, it's just not any good. You need to narrow it down, focus on the tools and the methods that work for you. Not every approach to studying works for me. You know, I know how I study best. I know how I learn best, and you should too. And, you know, use those materials that help you learn. If you're into video, you're into audio, you're into visual aids, then a lot of our solutions will work for you. You know, so you might want to visit www.praizion.com, praizion.com. Take a look at what we've got up there, see if any of those tools will help you. Flashcards, audio flashcards, manual flashcards, cram sheets, DVDs, audios, you name it. You know, personally I've helped a ton of folks get certified on the 4th edition. And you know what? The 5th edition, I've got some really sinister plans for the PMP exam. You want to know more about it? You stay tuned to this channel. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you soon.